Now you may be asking yourself, okay, well, but how does this actually work? What's actually going on here? And let's return to one of my favorite charts, my follow the dollar, follow the money, follow the relationship chart. Now you've probably all seen this, and I'm obviously not going to go through it now, but it's my simplified view of what the prescription channel looks like, the interactions between them. And I've cut out a lot of the arrows that have to do with brand name drugs. Now I'm just focusing on the generic drugs. So you'll notice there's no line from manufacturer to third-party payer or PBM discussing rebates, because generic drugs generally don't have rebates paid by the manufacturer to the PBM. They do have rebates paid to wholesalers and pharmacies, and if the PBM is a pharmacy, they might be getting a rebate as a pharmacy, but that's because the formulary, the selection of which particular generic gets used, really has shifted to the distribution system, the distribution channel. So when someone uses a GoodRx or another discount card, they print it out, and on the back of it is an RX BIN number. And BIN, for those who don't know, stands for Bank Identification Number, and essentially says, this is your prescription drug benefit. This is how much you have to pay out of pocket, and the pharmacy then knows this is how much they're going to get reimbursed, partially from your out-of-pocket share, partially from that plan working through a PBM. So it creates a BIN number that looks like prescription insurance. And that discount card then gets paid at that network rate, that PBM network rate, not the pharmacy's usual and customary cost, because now this is essentially a PBM network pharmacy. And so although you are paying yourself, you're really using a PBM rate. And then, after that transaction occurs, the pharmacy pays a fee back to the PBM, who shares some of that fee with the discount card. So in some sense, when we're talking about the discount card market, it is a PBM-operated market. PBMs are behind the scenes. And the fees that are coming from the pharmacies are going to PBMs and being shared with the discount cards. Now let me give you an example of like rough numbers of what's happening in the market so you can kind of put your head around this. Go back to my initial example. My usual and customary at a pharmacy, I've set it to be 156% of WAC. But my agreement with my PBM says I'm only going to get 40% of WAC as my reimbursement, which means if I, as a consumer, come in, I, in theory, are going to pay that 156% of WAC. In fact, I'm only going to pay 40%. So therefore, I'm going to save 116%, which is about, I think, 75% or so in this example. So my discount card has saved me 75%. Now, it saved me 75% from an artificially inflated, bogus usual and customary price, but certainly if I didn't have any insurance, the pharmacy is probably going to be unwilling to discount that too far because they don't want to accidentally leave money on the table in a PBM negotiation. So the way this works is now the pharmacy, because I've had this essentially benefit plan card from my PBM, is only going to get that 40 cents on the dollar of WAC. And then that pharmacy has to give a part of that fee, a part of that reimbursement over to the PBM. And on average, I estimate, that's about 20% of the prescription cost. So essentially, I pay them $10, and that $10, well, they're going to give $2 of that over to the PBM. But the PBM doesn't get to keep that. The PBM has to share it with the discount card vendor, and that 8% gets split roughly to about 6 of that $8, 6 of that 8% to the discount card vendor, and the PBM keeps 2%. Now, the actual fee that the discount card gets from the PBM could be a fixed amount per prescription. It could be a percent of the PBM's fee. So there's a lot of variations in the marketplace. But I estimate that at the end of the day, the discount card vendor gets about 15% of what the patient has paid to the pharmacy. Now, this means that when you think about discount cards, there's 5 things I want you to remember about how this actually works. Number 1, the patient is the payer. There is no third-party payer. It is only a first-party payer. I, as the patient, think I'm paying for my prescription. And you are. You are paying the full cost of that prescription. Secondly, it is a PBM claim. So like when you see my data on the PBM market share, it includes discount card claims because the PBMs are adjudicating these discount cards. In fact, GoodRx has said, we work with Express Scripts, we work with Optum, we work with MedImpact, we work with Navitus, the PBM owned by Costco and SSM Health. So those are PBM process claims because they're relying on this PBM network rate negotiated between the pharmacy and the PBM. The other thing, which people really, I don't know if fully grasped, but it seems clear to me, but I don't know, those discount card fees are a form of spread pricing. Now, spread pricing is almost like a toxic term, and pharmacies hate spread pricing. They hate these fees. But what it means is that the payer is paying some amount for a prescription, and the pharmacy is getting less than that amount. And part of that is being taken by the PBM. In this case, the payer is the patient. The pharmacy is getting that 80% of what I paid, and 20% is a spread that's going to the PBM, who's then sharing it with the discount card. But it is a form of spread pricing. And arguably, you could read, for example, the new Pharmacy Benefit Management Transparency Act that just passed out of Senate committee last week as having something to do with these discount cards and the way they're being priced, especially discount cards that are used inside benefits, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. So that law may, if it were to actually become law the way it's written, could have an impact on the discount card market. Not on necessarily the patient-paid market, but it could have an impact. Secondly, this PBM fee, the spread, this fee they're getting from the pharmacy, is obviously coming out of the pharmacy's profits. Now, in theory, the pharmacy is saying, well, if I didn't have to give that to the PBM, I'd be getting that full amount. The patient is coming to see me. And that's part of the debate because the pharmacies may feel, well, I've lost the revenue from a cash-paying customer who might pay me more, and maybe this patient would have come in anyways. And I would have they would have used the third-party insurance, but now I'm taking less. So there's a lot of friction, and this is one more, reason that pharmacies hate PBMs, as if they needed more reasons, but that's one. And the final thing is that discount card revenue reduces the PBM profits, which is why the discount cards and PBMs have kind of a, somewhat, I guess as the word my daughter taught me in middle school, they're frenemies. The discount cards rely on the PBM's rates to present those rates to you and me when we go in. At the same time, as these discount cards have grown and got more powerful, they've been able to drive a higher, tougher bargain and get higher fees, a bigger share of what the PBMs are collecting. And so that's been a source of friction there.